Okay, so today we're going to be talking about lasers and specifically the Xtool P2 55 watt CO2 laser. And I have a lot to say, so I printed some pages out, key bullet points, so I don't start wandering off and start jibber-jabbing. So let's get started. Full disclosure, Xtool did send me this machine for free and they just wanted me to do an honest review about it, but they only gave me 14 days once I received the tool to do a video. And that doesn't really seem fair because how much can you really know about a machine after just 14 days? So I'll try to be real honest about it, but this video would be more of a first impression of the tool that I just received. So let's get started. Now, I'm not an expert on laser machines and I still really don't know too much about them, but from what I know, there's two different types of laser machines available to everyday people like me and hobbyists and woodworkers out there. There's diode lasers and CO2 lasers. Now, from what I know, diode lasers have a lot less powerful laser than the CO2 laser. And the diode lasers are a lot more affordable than CO2 lasers. With the diode lasers, I believe you could just engrave only. And with the CO2 lasers, you could cut it and engrave. I mean, with the more powerful diode lasers, I'm sure you could cut up to a certain thickness, but with the CO2 lasers, you get what I'm saying. And I actually have a diode lasers in the shop right now. This is from Onefinity and it attaches to my CNC machine, and I don't know what the wattage is, but I never really set it up, so yeah. Now, I actually been keeping an eye on the Glowforge, which is the direct competitor of the Xtool P2 laser. And it just seems really cool to laser pretty much anything. I got paper engraved, I have acrylic that I engraved and cut, epoxy, wood, sheets of wood. You could etch metal and you could also do glass, tiles. I mean, there's so many different materials that you could play with and engrave. And with the modern technology of having, digital files everywhere online for free, it's just really nice to have. And especially for people like my wife. She loves having these customized things for my daughter, and it's perfect. And it's not just, making live, love, laugh signs. And there's so many different ways to get creative with this tool. So let me go over a few features and actually go through step by step on how to use this machine. And you'll find out at the end of the video why they're actually calling it the Glowforge Killer. First of all, let's go over the unboxing real quick. It all came in one box and it was packed nicely and nothing was damaged during delivery. The machine is pretty heavy, so I highly recommend having another person with you. I removed everything in the machine and did a quick inspection and noticed that everything was good to go. Now, the most important part of this setup is adding in the coolant. And you just have to remove few screws from the inside, which are nicely labeled for each screw, and few on the outside. You can then remove the cover and you'll see the laser tube and the place to fill the coolant. Now, the amount of coolant you add to the water depends on where you live. But since I live in LA and it doesn't drop below freezing temperatures, I can just add water. And I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but I added smart water to make it even smarter, so we'll see how it works. Now, I thought I actually recorded it, but I guess I forgot to record it. But as soon as you turn on the machine, you can see the water filling up the tubes, and just let the machine run for about 30 seconds. And then you could turn it off, and then you could fill in the rest of the water as instructed. And after filling in the water, I was ready to use this machine. Now, you're going to need a computer to use this machine, and the first initial setup, you're going to have to connect it using the USB cable that is provided. And after that, you could use the Wi-Fi setting and you don't have to use the cord anymore. So that's the only setup that you really have to do. And then I did a quick test cut to see if everything's good before I started moving the laser upstairs. And I decided to engrave this thin sheet of recycled skateboard veneer, and it came out very nice. And I knew that the machine was good to go. So I had my friend help me move this giant laser upstairs where I have more room, because I literally have zero room downstairs. I should have recorded with my phone too. All right, go.
We can do it if you want.
No.
That's not the movie.
So here's how I have it set up right now. The whole process of unpacking and getting it ready probably took about an hour or less. The vent hose goes straight up to the box fan, which leads straight to the outside. I did some test cuts and used it for a whole day and I didn't smell any smoke, so far I'm guessing this will work. But I do have a smoke purifier coming, so that will be even more added clarity in the air, I guess. What? Now, the one thing that I really actually like is the Xtool software, which is Creative Space. Now, this machine actually supports Lightburn, which is a very popular software for laser users. But to be honest, the Xtool Creative Space software is more than enough, to be honest. Like, I guess I've only been using it for like a couple of days, but what else do you need? You can score, you could engrave, you could cut, and you could adjust the settings for the power and the speed. And there's a bunch of other settings that you could do, as well as, designing things. Pretty damn easy. And it's just like every other software out there that's, click and drag and scale up and copy and all that stuff. Same thing. Now, let's go over a few key features that this machine has and the reason why it's being called the Glowforge Killer. First of all, there's a dual 16 megapixel camera for live views, 2 of them. This means there's one camera for general view of the full work area and another one mounted on the laser head for more detailed view. So let's say you put your material in there and you want to line up whatever you want to engrave or cut. You can capture a closer view of your material and the laser head will move and take a picture of a particular spot of your choosing and zoom in closer. So you'll never have an issue of misalignment. So you'll get a live preview of where your design is going to be in relation to your material, which is pretty cool. Secondly, and I think this is the biggest feature that this machine has, you could engrave on curved surfaces like this. And this is a feature that no other competitor has, and no one else can do it. No one could engrave on curved surfaces, and it's a big one. You could pretty much engrave bowls and guitars and anything that's curved, and that would fit into the machine, obviously. Xtool P2 can construct 3D models of curved objects and automatically adjust the focal length during processing and making the engraving result as perfect as it does on flat surfaces. So the actual head will move up and down in relation to the curve. And the initial setup is really easy. You just have to find 2 corners and the computer does its thing and you're getting a perfect engraving on curved surfaces. I mean, this is clean. And they also have the Rotary Tool accessory, and so you can engrave tumblers and rings and other things that you want to spin. Now, the max height of the materials that you could fit in is 2.5 inches with the tray, 2.7 inches without the tray, and 8.5 inches if you get the riser base. So if you want to engrave something larger like suitcases, boxes, and things like that, you could get the riser base, so you'll get a much bigger height. Now, as I mentioned before, you could get the Rotary Tool accessory as well as the riser base, but there's another cool accessory that I feel like no one else has, which is the roll conveyor feeder, which is going to allow you to send in longer sheet goods through the machine, so it automatically feeds it while it's getting engraved. So you're not just limited to your work area, which is 23.6 inches by 12.1 inches. And then the actual bed is a little bit bigger, but the processing area is a little bit smaller. Thirdly, the power and the speed. The Xtool P2 has 55 watt CO2 laser compared to the Glowforge's 45 watt CO2 laser. Now, comparing it to the 20 watt diode laser, the Xtool P2 can actually cut 6 times faster. That's saving time. Time is money, baby. And if you really want to talk about power, they have a demonstration of the Xtool P2 cutting 20 millimeter thick acrylic as well as 18 millimeter black walnut in one pass. And honestly, I don't know who's out there cutting that thick on a laser, but at least you know you could do it. Now, lastly, there's few things that the Xtool P2 does to keep you safe. There's these hydraulics to keep the lid open so it doesn't just fall on your head. That's number one. Number two, it'll stay locked when it's getting processed, and it'll wait a few seconds after it's processed, and then it'll unlock it, and then you could open it so you're not exposing all that smoke into the air. Now there's also an emergency stop button, but it's kind of hidden to the right. I wish it was a little bit closer to the front, but you still have it there. So at any given time, starting to cause a fire or something's wrong with it, you could stop the machine by pressing that button. I actually used it once already. So now that we know a little bit about this machine, let me give you a demonstration from start to finish on how it actually works in real life, like turning it on, processing the software, pressing the button, and it's real simple. So we'll go over it real quick. Okay, let's go up there. Okay, so real quick, I just want to give you how it's set up, and it's right here. It's a pretty big boy. It's 39 inches across, 24 inches deep, but with the hose on the back, a few more extra inches, so you're looking at about 26 inches. The hose goes straight up and outside right over here. And yeah, let's get started. I already have the software running. I could turn on the machine back here. Then I could wait for the machine to warm up, but I have this place right here where I could connect it. I have it using Wi-Fi. Let's refresh and see. Nothing there yet. This is warming up. Oh, there it is. And there you are. The laser head moved real quick to see if it works. So the machine and the software is connected. Now, all we have to do is put in our material. I'm using this really thin sheet of recycled skateboard veneer. And then I also recommend putting it right in the middle because this is a fisheye lens. So everything on the edges doesn't seem all that accurate. So I would say put it as close to the middle as possible. Yeah, this is what the inside of the bed looks like. If you haven't seen it, these are called slats. You could always remove it and put it back in there. But what's really nice about this is compared to the CNC machine where I have to bolt it down and make sure it's all secure, but with the laser machine, I could just drop it in there, close the lid, and we're good to go. Now, let's come over to the program. When you click refresh right up here, it's gonna show you a live preview of your material that's in there. So let me do a little bit of design work and show you what happens. Okay, so I have the design in there and I have the correct placement. Now, if you do something called the close capture, this is the dual camera that I was telling you about. If I click this and I want to zoom in even closer to this, the laser is going to actually move and take a picture and then move back and give me a closer view, more detailed view of the material that I have in there. So that's a really good feature to have when you don't have too much material and you have to be really accurate. Now, another thing is you have to define the material thickness before you do anything because you don't want to hit the laser head against your machine, and it needs to be the right focal length. So what I could do, instead of measuring my material that's already in there, I could just click this button right here, aim measure. And then I'm gonna do around here. It's gonna measure that and then move back. And it's gonna give me the correct thickness every single time. So that's really good. So I'm pretty much ready to go. The logo itself, I'm doing engraving. The font, I'm doing engraving. And the circle, I'm cutting it out. And the power for that, I think it was at 30% power and 300 millimeters per second for the engraving and the text. And the cut itself, I think was at 100% at 20 millimeters per second. So let's go ahead and get started. I press start It's gonna give me a little bit of a preview of what's happening. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I could click start on the top and it's gonna tell me I'm ready to press this button and I'm good to go. So I press the button, move it, and it's gonna start lasering. Now another thing that's really cool is these progress bar right here. There's a display right embedded into the machine, and so it's gonna tell you how long it's taking. I really wish they told me how long each cut or engraving is gonna take, but it doesn't really tell you. It only tells you how long it's been processing or how long it's been being used. So that's a thumbs down. Okay, so it just finished. It's airing out. And then I don't know if you heard that, but the lock just got unlocked, which is right here. And now I'm safe to recover this. Look at that. Yeah, so that's how you use this laser. Nice and simple. Software is pretty good. I like it. So as you can see, this is pretty much how to use these lasers. Now there's another really cool feature about the Xtool Creative Space software is that you could batch these out just by throwing in a bunch of materials in the work area, and you don't have to line it up perfectly. You just throw it in there, and there's something called a smart fill, which can intelligently recognize shapes through the camera and fill the patterns on multiple objects and engrave on them on one batch. So if you're doing a lot of batching of small custom things, you could always just throw a bunch of them in there and it's automatically gonna align everything perfectly for you, so you don't have to sit there and align each one by one, and it's just a hassle. So you're saving a lot of time by doing this. So this is the Xtool P2 55 watt CO2 laser, and in my honest opinion, I actually really like it, and I like having it in the shop. But in fairness, I never owned any other lasers before this, so I might be a little biased, as well as them sending it to me. But just having it for a few weeks, I did realize that I could get really creative with this machine because a lot of the materials that I process are thin and small, and it's perfect for lasers, whereas the CNC machine is gonna chip through all this and using a lot of materials because the bit itself is like 1/4 inches. That's the only bit I use, whereas the laser is pretty much hairline thick. And another thing that I really like about this machine is that you could engrave and you could customize things, and as long as you have a really nice design, you could pretty much print it on anything. I have paper engraving right here. That looks real nice. I mean, you could probably sell this. And there's so many different materials that I haven't even tested out yet, but I'm very excited to test out, like metal and glass and metal. And I actually even engraved and cut epoxy, which I don't recommend you cutting it because I think it started melting. But engraving, it looks pretty damn nice. So if you're in the market for a CO2 laser, I would definitely check out the Xtool P2 55 watt CO2 laser. It's much more powerful than the Glowforge. It's a lot more affordable than the Glowforge. And there's a ton of more features that the Glowforge just cannot do. So check it out. I'll have the link down in the description below. And that's it for this video. I'm going to have to do another video using the machine to make something, and I already have something planned, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and comment down below what you guys actually really think about the Xtool P2 55 watt CO2 laser. Thanks again, and until next time.